Okay, hello, greetings and welcome. Alright, so this video is on stages of developing Akasha. When your basics of Akasha is releasing time, releasing space, and going into an infinity quality. And as you develop this, there's a stillness of the body, there's a stillness of the feelings, and there's a stillness of the mind that needs to be developed first. So let's say you've had a hard day at work, you come home, you're exhausted, you flop on the couch, you do nothing. You just, you let go of the body, and you go into the state of not thinking, not feeling, just in a type of recovery mode where you're completely still and you're essentially doing nothing. This is ironically an essential preliminary exercise for Akasha development, where you just learn how to sit comfortably, totally released of the body, and go into stillness. Let your body be still. So initially you do this in a place of extreme comfort. You may flop onto the bed, lay down, maybe on the couch, day bed, anywhere where you can let your body go completely and just sit quietly and comfortably and not exert any effort in any direction. My favorite place for this was a flotation tank. Get into a flotation tank, do nothing. Release your body, release your feelings, release your mind. Just dwell in the stillness for an hour. And this basic training of stillness generates the platform from which you can develop Akasha work. It's the entry into equanimity. Now, the first superficial layer of equanimity is simply a byproduct of this, of doing nothing. As you want to go into the unconscious layers of equanimity, you need to develop concentration. So Franz Barden's initial exercise of observing the rising falling way of thought, you accumulate around a lot of stillness around your mind as you observe the rising falling away. As that stillness accumulates, it creates a cloud around your mind of quietude, and the thoughts move further and further away from your mind. So eventually there's a point where they can't reach you. So this starts to generate a type of mental stillness. Then you take a meditation object, you put your mind on it, and you hold that object with a one-pointed attentiveness. As you're paying attention to this object, you'll start accumulating stillness, and you'll get a tunnel vision between your consciousness and the object. And the stillness, as it accumulates, will start to pervade the consciousness to the point where the meditation object starts to disappear. So the meditation object arises, falls away, appears and disappears, starts flickering. That's your next step in the cultivation of that stillness. Then mentally, you just move your awareness to the stillness itself. So instead of having a meditation object and you feel the side effect of the stillness accumulating, you just move the mind to the stillness itself and indulge in that quietude. So this prepares the mental body. Now, the astral body, we need to balance the elements of fire, air, water, and earth. So we do the fire element breathing into the head region, and then meditate on the fire element bringing equanimity into the whole body, and then sit in the quietude of that equanimity. We do the same with the air element in the air region, water in the water region, earth in the earth region. So you astral breathe those elements, charging the element with the idea of equanimity, balance, harmony, and this will equalize the subconscious static and put your astral feeling into equanimity. Once that's been done, then we go back to the physical body and we vital breathe the idea of equanimity. We breathe relaxation in and we compound stillness inside the physical body. So the systems of the body slow down, get slower, slower and slower, and you get a deeper physical stillness. Now all these layers of cultivating stillness start coming together, and your ability to slow everything down, release time increases. So you vital breathe, and you do the 4-cycle breath. You breathe the vital energy in, you pause at the end of the in-breath, you enter the stillness, release time in your mind, and then that timeless feeling you breathe out with the life force. Get to the other end of the breath, pause, enter the stillness, release time, slow everything down further, and then you continue this breath cycle in and out. Each end of the breath, you recalibrate and slow everything down further and further. If your hands are up and you're holding the ball, you're going to get a thick fluidic quality in the life force, whether it's moved from a life force state to an astral fluid state. And this release of time and slowing down of the energy brings you into a deeper type of equanimity and access into your astral body. From here, you can do the element exercises again. You're just in a deeper level to generate a deeper astral equanimity. And you'll find as you repeat the 4-cycle breath to go deeper and deeper into your astral body, and you repeat the astral breathing exercises, you'll soften and settle deeper layers in the unconscious mind and bring them into stillness. Once you've gone through this astral training, we want to start releasing space. So you become aware of the mental boundaries around your astral body. You feel the perimeters of your mind. You become sensitive to them. You simply pay attention to them. And then you begin feathering them off. So you relax and release the edges of this astral sensation. You go back to the idea the universe is mind. You are mind substance. You are consciousness. And as you feather off the edges of that astral feeling, your mind will start to come into resonance with mind substance rather than astral form. And this expansion of consciousness, this release of space, starts to amplify, and your mind simply becomes space. Now, the irony is you have to release space for your mind to become space. When your mind is connected to the form of space, it's stuck to form. It's your mind stuck to what's residing on the space. As soon as you release the form and cultivate the spacelessness, your mind becomes the space itself. So you get an expansion of consciousness in the mental body. As you do these exercises, you're always going to have side effects of different types of stillness, different types of equanimity that are arising underneath the exercise you're practicing. So you journal each of these types of stillness that arise, each of these types of equanimity that arise, and you cultivate them. You move towards the equanimity being your meditation object when you do an exercise that gives you a profound stillness. You go from the exercise to the stillness and you cultivate the stillness. So we're getting all these tools, all these doors to open stillness up in different ways, so that the mind has a whole range of vehicles to enter stillness, and they all start working together to cultivate Akasha via equanimity. Okay, so once we've done the release of time and the release of space, and we're experiencing these various forms of stillness, there's a type of stillness that has a quality of infinity inside of it. And this is what we're really looking for, where your mind touches it and you can't find an edge to it. With mind substance, at a fundamental level, there's a limitation to that mind substance, where with Akasha, it's unlimited, it's infinite. And this is where we bridge from the mental body into the Akasha, is when we start becoming sensitive to that infinity. And these are side effects of cultivating all these forms of stillness. Once we start touching this infinity quality, we'll start to notice that infinity clairvoyantly appears dark violet. So when your mind goes into a Akashic state, a dark violet color appears around your consciousness as you accumulate this infinity quality as a part of your mind substance. If a person's practicing Akasha work, you'll notice they'll have an ultraviolet, dark violet glow around them. Depending, it'll become a brighter violet if they're interacting with the light. It'll become a darker Akasha violet if they're paying more attention to the underlying infinity quality of that stillness. Now, once you've got to this point where you can do the Akasha breathing and bring that dark violet stillness, infinity quality into the body and out of the body, we want to continue and deepen this. And to deepen this stillness, we have to recognize what is uh, obstructing our mind or imbalancing our mind from going deeper into Akasha. So we go to a physical center of gravity, we do the Akasha breathing, we observe from our physical center, and we look at what are the needs of the body, what creates static within our body. When we look at the earth element, we'll recognize there's this need for quietude and stillness, where you want to sit down on the couch and be quiet. And you need a quiet space for this. So every day you come home from work, from your daily activities, and you go into your quiet space. You'll recognize this need needs to be reinforced to really deepen the stillness. You'll recognize your social networks in the water element. How much emotional need do you require? How much family time do you need? How much social approval do you need? How much sexual gratification does the body need? So you look at all these aspects of the water element from the Akashic center of your physical body and go, my body needs these particular qualities. Recognize them, mentally note them. After the practice, of course, you're going to write them down and manage them. So you're either going to manage them through acting them out, or you're going to manage them through equalizing them and doing releases in that element in your physical body. Then you go to the air element. There's a need to understand. So we have this primitive need to understand our environment, understand survival, and increase our chances of survival. The body wants to generate neurogenesis and learn things and understand. It's a fundamental craving. It's an essential part of evolution. So when we sit in a physical center of gravity and we observe this yearning of the body to generate the neurogenesis, to learn new things. And this learning of new things might just be the adventure. You want to go on a holiday and see a new place. When you're seeing something new you've never experienced before, you get this development of the brain, you get neurogenesis happening. When you learn a new piece of information, you get neurogenesis. So these are all aspects of the air element, they're fundamental needs. Recognize those needs from the center of gravity within your body in the Akasha. Go, okay, yeah, I have these needs. I can fulfill them through acting them out, or I can equalize them through alchemical work. Then the fire element. In order to evolve, we need discipline, we need focus, we need concentration, we need challenge our boundaries. We need to swim a bit faster, run a bit further, perform better at work, perfect our skills. We need to challenge ourselves, and there's an unconscious need to express our will, whether this be through leadership, whether it be through dominating others, controlling your family, controlling your spouse. There's all these weird unconscious needs to control. And you've got to look at them in their positive and negative phases. When it's in the negative, it's controlling others. When it's in the positive, it's breaking your own boundaries and performing better at whatever you do. So this need to express the fire element, recognize it, bring it into its positive phase, and nurture it. You can nurture it through acting it out, or you can nurture it through equalizing and balancing it, making it harmonious. So from the physical center of gravity, we're going to have these basal needs, and they're all a part of our survival instinct. They're part of the physical needs of the body. Now, as we move from the physical center of gravity and we Akasha breathe into our astral center of gravity and sit inside this stillness and look at our astral yearning, it's a few notches up on the vibrational scale. So instead of a need for sex and for hugging and for physical contact with people you love, it becomes this emotional need of you need approval when you do something, you need acknowledgement for your successes. You need people to say, yeah, you're doing well. These are all aspects of your ego substance more so than the body. So this next level of the elements, we're working from the same root of the element, but the the patterning is just a little bit different, and it's more sticky and more emotional. So these needs for these various emotional approvals, and because we're social beings, there's a need for approval to move forward with something. The group consciousness says it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. The group consciousness says it's not okay to do something else. And if you're going to break out of the group consciousness limitation, you need your social group to approve of it, so that your subconscious mind says, yes, I can move forward with this. And this is how we've survived, by being in these social groups that bind together and make decisions as a group. And these various forms of group consciousness have evolved. From a metaphysical view, it's okay for people to have gut instincts, but it's not okay for people to be clairvoyant, to see the spiritual world. And the group consciousness definitely says you're not allowed to hear the spiritual world, but you're allowed to feel it. You're allowed to have instincts. You're allowed to have clairsentience. And so the group consciousness has, for some reason, decided this is acceptable, that's not acceptable. So it's very easy to develop clairsentience, develop the intuition. But it's much more difficult for people to get unconscious approval to develop clairvoyance. So we look at this astral need, and we insert ourselves in environments in which the social approval is okay for what we want to develop. And we recognize how to generate equanimity within your astral body within the social approval need in relation to the direction you're going. When we work on the fire element, we start going into the black and white mirror of the fire element, the good points and the bad points of your personality. And when you're sitting in the Akasha, in your heart center, in the center of gravity of your astral body, and you look at the fire element within you, you're going to see all these positives and all these negatives. And you're going to recognize this static is underneath your mind, and it's breaking that deep stillness and equanimity. Your subconscious mind is having static due to this black and white mirror. And then you address those aspects of the fire element and bring them into equanimity. You bring them into a universal quality of expressing your will, expressing higher positives with your fire element, and removing the negatives that are hindering you and breaking your equanimity. When we look at the air element, again we come back to this need to understand. But here it's a deeper need to understand why people think the way they do, why people feel the way they do, why people act the way they do. Just to understand the nature of causation. When you understand the nature of causation, people's behaviors detach emotionally. You understand why they're thinking, feeling, and acting the way they are. And when you understand it, the stickiness to the emotional response disappears. So by recognizing these aspects of understanding without judgment, it empowers the air principle to balance out the other emotions. So we want to go into the Akasha, go into your center of gravity of your heart, and look at these elements and harmonize each of the elements. The earth element. So the earth element is your patterns. We have unconscious patterns of doing stuff. And astrally, if we're following a pattern on a regular basis, we'll have a certain degree of dependence upon that pattern. And if we don't do the pattern, we get static, an emotional, unconscious response. Like, every morning I get up and do this, but today I'm not doing that, so I feel uncomfortable. So you might be out of your normal environment, and there'll be discomfort there because you're not following your normal pattern. So you want to recognize these earth element patterns and recognize how they're generating static and breaking your connection to Akasha, breaking your deep inner tranquility and stillness. Then when we start breathing the Akasha into the mental body, into the center of gravity of the mental body being the pineal gland and center of the head, the seat of consciousness. As we put the Akasha there, again, we're going to see the four elements coming through the Akasha. But now they're expressing themselves more through spirit qualities, the mind's ability to concentrate itself, the mind's ability to see and understand your environment, the mind's ability to be omnipresent and connected to your environment, to be a part of the environment, and the mind's ability to have compassion as an extension of that connectivity to the environment. So you'll see these needs within the spirit to want to follow these high frequency spiritual qualities, and they'll be pulling your mind. They'll be giving you spiritual yearnings to move in a certain direction. When you sit in the Akasha of the mental body and you detect these yearnings, you'll start to recognize which of these yearnings you should fulfill and which of these yearnings you should neutralize. What leads to universal qualities of the mind and what lowers the mind. As you identify these element qualities within the spirit, you can bring them into equanimity, nurture the positives, and equalize the negatives. Once you've worked through that process of Akasha breathing into the mental body, bring yourself into deep mental tranquility and stillness, then we move this accumulated Akashic substance up through the crown. We open the crown chakra and suspend the head from above. As you accumulate the Akashic, timeless, spaceless, infinity quality above the crown, you get a pressure differential. Now, a pressure differential is when you have a high and low pressure next to each other. The high pressure moves towards the low pressure. So this is what they call suspending the head from above. The above point has a lower pressure. You bring the awareness there and whoa, it just pulls the body, the spine, the physical, the astral, the mental up towards that suspension point, which is a quality of infinity. It's a quality of Akasha. This is how we begin raising the lower energies to the higher. When you suspend the head from above and accumulate Akasha above the crown chakra, you start getting these very, very deep feelings of unity with the mental space around you, the mind substance of other people, the emotional space around you, you get understanding into emotional processes, and the physical space. You feel connected to your environment. So you feel a part of your community rather than disconnected from your community. You feel your family is you, not you're a part of a family. So you get these changes in view and perception. You move through this first person perception to a second person, how people view you, and to a third person, that you are the space of the conversation and the lawfulness of that particular conversation. So these levels of perception increase as you accumulate Akasha above the crown. You suspend your head from above and you start developing universal mind qualities. So this is your basic structure of how to develop Akasha, how to connect to universal consciousness, and the different facets of way of training this. And this is really the heart of Franz Barden's work, Initiation Hermetics. Of every exercise you do produces a stillness quality. That's the treasure. It's not the exercise itself, it's not the skill you're developing, they're all incidental. What matters is the underlying stillness you accumulate under every exercise. That's the real treasure. Okay, thank you for your time, and see you in the next video.